Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Today, we are going to dig into some very practical steps. As well, really everyone who is listening knows, the experience of building a business is a very interesting one. There are highs, there are lows, there are high highs, there are low lows. It is, I would love to believe that it's just kind of that you ever get to a point where it's steady state. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. And I can tell you that people who are much, much more successful can tell you that there are ups and downs. There are always wins, but then there are always challenges to solve. And what we're going to dig into today is what to do when you are faced with some of those challenges, because one of the easiest reactions is to just freak out.
Freak out.
Woo, freak out. Which, of course, is not a great way of responding to problems. And when I say freak out, I think there are really kind of a couple of different ways that people tend to do it. They either get panicky and they go into intense motion and activity. Like, I have to fix this. I have to fix this in 10,000 different ways. Not usually a great way of approaching it. Or they tend to shut down when they come upon a challenge. They blankets in bed, blankets over the head until they get enough courage to actually deal with the problem. Hopefully, they will eventually get that courage.
Yeah. And I think this process, these steps that we're going to go through are useful for both things that are maybe tiny freakouts. So, for example, maybe you're posting a ton on social media and you're just not getting any engagement, you're not getting any growth, and you're starting to feel like, oh, like, why am I even bothering with this? Or, maybe a bigger freak out where you're maybe live launching and no one buys and you're questioning whether you're cut out for business. And should I even keep doing this? Do I even have an offer that people want? Am I personally not capable of doing this? And you start to go into that doubt spiral that I think is a much bigger freak out than, maybe those days that it's just kind of like frustrating more than freak out potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for example, maybe, you're driving ads to your opt-in page and no one opts in. Then you're like, ugh, my offer sucks. And then you're starting to doubt your offer itself and whether it has any value, whether, starting to think like, oh, I need to blow this up and start something completely different and do something completely new, which, as we know, that probably isn't the case. But it's very easy to go to that dark place of just, what am I doing with my life? And yeah, just an existential dread.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is really the thing is, I think as we're building a business, we are, as much as we try to stay objective, our businesses matter so much to us, and the results of our businesses matter so much that it's almost always, I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't have this initial feeling of just a lot of emotion when things happen in the business, especially negative things. And that's fine. That's natural. And really, that's the first step, is to recognize that you're feeling the feeling. If you are feeling panicked, recognize it. And or if you're someone who's maybe not quite as in touch with your emotions, or we're all in different phases of life experiences, but notice maybe that you've got an elevated heart rate, maybe you're feeling some tension, maybe you're having trouble sleeping, or maybe you can tell right away you know that you're feeling fear, or you're feeling panic or anxiety, or any number of those, or disappointment, or maybe you're even feeling apathy. There's some people when something difficult comes up, they kind of, like I was saying, shut down, but shut down emotionally as well. But the first step really is to recognize that you are feeling this feeling. When you experience challenges in your business, it's really important to start to learn how this manifests for you. I know that I personally do tend to get a little bit of panic, and I feel it in my torso. It is like feels constriction in like in the very center of me. And that is how it manifests for me. Now, whether that means that I do a whole bunch of activities or I shut down, I think I kind of, yay for me. I can do either of them. I'm so talented. But I can notice that feeling. And now that I notice that feeling, now I can work through the rest of the steps in this process.
Yeah. And I think the other kind of common one that might crop up too is you start going down the comparison trap of looking at other people and what they're doing and starting to compile and compound on the feelings that you were already having. And so by looking at others, kind of saying, well, yeah, my offer really, like, is it even valuable? And like, look at these people and they're having success and they're doing it so much better. So why should I even bother? And it just adds to the feelings that already exist and just makes them that much worse. And so I think noticing when you're looking, mindlessly scrolling Instagram and kind of looking at other businesses, whether it's in your space or in other spaces, but noticing when you're taking the time to do that and it's not in a helpful way. Sometimes I feel like comparison can be like inspirational and you're getting energized from it. But I think so noticing when it's energizing and noticing when it's draining and just making you feel sad, or to Nikki's point, in your body, is it? For me, even just talking about this, I'm like, I get constricted this way, and like the heart area, it's like, oh, the tightening up. So,
yeah, and yeah, the comparison can be a symptom of it. The comparison can actually start this feeling. You can be having a perfectly fine day, and then you see an ad that one of your competitors is running. You go, oh my gosh, the ad is so much better. Look at all the comments they have. All of this kind of stuff. It's so easy to spiral. But again, that first step, just recognize that is the experience that you're having. Because if you try to skip that stage, you're going to be 3 stages down, trying to fix stuff before you actually realize that you might have spiraled a little bit out of control.
So step 2, once you've actually noticed and identified what's kind of going on for you, taking the time to view it objectively as possible. As we know, our feelings and our emotions around it aren't very objective. And so asking questions that'll help you get to that place to view it objectively and start to take a step back. So for example, what do you know for sure about this situation? What are the actual facts? Because facts, we can't change that the sky is blue and that 1 + 1 = 2, those sorts of things. So we want to get to a place where we can view each of the facts of the situation objectively. And while we can't change how we react and feel about something, we do have control over how we are viewing the facts.
Yeah. And it can sometimes take a little bit of practice to move into the objective, because I think some of us think when we say things like, nobody bought, we're being objective. But that is, it could be that literally 0 people purchased. That's okay. But even still, nobody bought. That's clearly very tinged with emotion. It's a different story to say, first of all, nobody bought might not literally be the truth. You might feel like nobody bought, but maybe the literal truth is, well, I launched this to 200 people and 1 person bought. So is it true that nobody bought? No, that's not true that nobody bought. 1 person purchased. Now, it might be that you were hoping that more people would purchase. That also, we'll call that a fact. You were hoping that more people would purchase. Okay, great. But 1 person purchased. So what do we know then? Okay, well, we have a 0.5% conversion rate. That's right? Okay. Maybe less than
that. You said 1, right? Yeah.
I said 1 out of 200. This is why we shouldn't do math when we're recording.
Yes, 0.5.
0.5. Yes. Yeah, maybe we should do math just so I can show off a little bit. Clearly not. It's a 0.5% conversion rate, which is probably less than you wanted. But again, this is a number that you can work with because, well, we'll get into that in the next step. But you want to think very objectively. If you are thinking about facts, there shouldn't be any emotions attached to those facts.
Yeah. And so I think other examples to build on that, maybe you started promoting this offer to these 200 people 2 weeks before your kind of launch date. Maybe you sent 3 emails around this over the course of those 2 weeks. I'm making up numbers, but I think numbers are obviously very helpful. But what was the timeline? What was the situation? Was there a time of day? And some of these things might not might not be relevant. They might not be, add to your hypothesis, which is we'll get to later about kind of what's going on with the situation. But the more I think that you have and can pour out in this stage, the better to get a full picture of the situation of, it was October 12th when I, decided that I was going to do this. And then here's what I did on the way to get me to this one sale. And so just laying out just the whole story around it, if you will, because obviously we're telling ourselves one story with our feelings and emotions, but the real story is not necessarily that. Obviously that's part of it. And we're, acknowledging how we feel about something, certainly, but getting kind of the actual, what is the tale behind all of this?
Yeah. And if you're finding yourself having trouble getting to the facts, write down the thoughts that you're having and then evaluate those thoughts. Like, let's say, for example, one of your team members made a mistake. You told her to do something. She made a mistake. So maybe your immediate thought is, oh, she never listens to me. Okay, write that down. Is that an objective fact?
No, oh my God, you're talking about me.
Kate never listens to me. No, but no, this isn't an objective fact. She listened to me in XYZ scenarios. Okay. Well, she doesn't care about the project. Okay. Is this an objective fact? Or again, are you extrapolating? Is this an opinion? Are you making judgments on things that you couldn't possibly know because you're not psychic? Now, is it possible that she does not care about your business? Sure it is, but you can't possibly know that for sure. Facts are things that you can know for sure and that you can prove. What you can prove is that maybe in this scenario, instead of sending out the email with this subject line, she sent out the email with this subject line. That is the one thing that you know and can know for sure. So if you're having trouble getting to that fact, write down some of the thoughts that are coming up in your head and then read them out aloud and ask yourself, okay, is this an objective fact? Is this something that I can know or prove for sure? And once you work through some of those, you will likely be able to get down to the fact. And usually the facts too are very simple.
They're super boring.
They're super boring. Yes. Yes. That's a great way of putting it. They're super boring, and they should be super boring because as much as possible, we're trying to remove the emotion from it. Yeah. Okay, once you have your list of objective facts, and maybe it is just one fact, or maybe you have a couple of facts, but again, your objective fact, then viewing those, think to yourself, okay, well, what is the problem here? What went wrong? Or maybe a better way to put it is what did not happen the way that I wanted it to happen? What am I looking to solve as I look at this problem? Or what problem am I having with this? In the scenario of maybe your assistant sent out the wrong subject line, it's what was the problem? Okay, well, the problem is that I communicated to her which subject line I wanted to send, but she sent the wrong one. All right, that's the problem. Now, what am I looking to solve? I'm looking to solve the problem of the wrong subject. I mean, you can't solve it in retrospect, but I'm looking to make sure that we never send out the wrong subject lines. Or I'm looking to, I'm looking to make sure that when I give her directives, that those are followed through on. Or I'm looking to make sure that that my communication to her is clear. It could be any number of things. But once you have an idea of the facts, then you can start trying to figure out what the actual problem was and what you were trying to solve.
Yeah. And so for the other example of, kind of the number of sales of making, say, one sale, and say I made one sale last month, but I want to be making 15 sales. Or, my profit margin is this, and I really need it to be this other number to make my business work. And that's my goal. Or I think it can be layered too of having, I made this many sales last month, but I also worked 80 hours, and maybe you didn't want to work 80 hours and you want to work, much less. We should all be working much less than 80 hours. But there could be kind of layered problems in here. And so, in some situations where you might have that, I'm working too many hours and I didn't hit my sales goal or something like that. The solutions for both of these things, they could overlap. You could find a solution that meets both of these needs, that reduces your hours and helps you hit your sales goal. But it could also be that they need two separate solutions that work together. So I think just noticing when there are more than one, there's more than one thing going on to solve, and knowing, okay, this could be, I could look for a solution that kind of does both, or I might be needing to kind of keep an eye out for the fact that I might have to have that these could be two separate, interrelated and connected, but two separate, in need of two separate solutions.
Yeah. And I think at this point, this is usually when people start trying to dive into the solutions. All right, well, this was the problem. I'm going to figure it out. And that is often a mistake, because this can be the place where we become a little reactionary and we try to solve it by doing a million different things. But there's actually a step before that. Before you start solving it, you want to figure out what got you into this position, what got you this result, what we like to talk about, what are the symptoms, what inputs got you this output. And again, this is another place that you want to be objective. It's not, well, my spouse didn't support me, so I ended up having to work all these extra hours, or, and that may be a factor, but that's emotional. Again, you can't, that's not the exact provable facts. We're looking for, okay, well, what got me into this? Well, if I look back at my schedule, I spent 3 hours each week in meetings that I probably didn't need to be in, or that I may not have needed to be in. That's, at least that's a way to make it more objective. Okay, well, going into this, I didn't get any feedback on my messaging. I usually reach out to my copywriter, but she was busy. I didn't ask her for a referral, and so I didn't get feedback on my messaging this time. Or maybe, okay, well, I send this out, but I didn't send this out, or I sent this out to a list who has already seen my offer multiple times. Sometimes we think, oh, my list is warm, they're going to love it. But if your list is not warm but stale, they may not be as interested in your offer. So it's not just the outcome that you want to look at objectively, but also look at all of the different inputs, the really, however you want to look at it, inputs, whether it's symptoms of the problem or whether it's, ingredients that got you this cake that you are not happy with. But what went into it? And again, what are the objective points that went into it? And really give yourself some time to list all of this out, because there are probably going to be a couple of things that right off the top of your head you think of immediately. But your business is important to you. And if this is a problem that is enough to make you upset, then this is a problem that is worthy of you taking some time to really think about and list out all of the different inputs, all of the ingredients, all of the symptoms that got you this result. Absolutely all of them. Because sometimes, yes, maybe making some changes to some of the most obvious ones can help, but sometimes you may not notice until you go all the way through your list that one of the biggest problems is something you hadn't even thought about, but it's something that you do all the time. Or maybe it's a combination of a couple of different things, but you can't know that until you've gone through and objectively listed out all of the elements, all of the steps, all of the ingredients that got you that result.
Yeah. And I think then at this point, and I think to Nikki's point, we usually skip over this step. So really taking the time with that. And once you have the full list, then kind of looking at, what are my hypotheses about this? Why do I think that this happened? So to use the assistant example of using the wrong subject lines. Okay. Use subject line A instead of subject line B. Maybe you go back through your email and it's, okay, I sent 2 emails and maybe this was confusing, and we're managing our projects via email and we don't have a project management system. Maybe that's why our process had a breakdown, and we really need to look at our process, and that could have solved this issue and could prevent it from happening. Or, if you're not hitting your sales goals and you're looking at all of the factors that go into that, maybe you're not charging enough for your offer and you need to raise the price of it. And that's kind of your hypothesis. Or you didn't factor in how high ad costs would be, and so now your margins are off, and so you're not hitting that profit margin that you want because you didn't have enough information about the costs that were going to go into hitting this number. Um, all of these sorts of things you can really, and you can have multiple hypotheses too, I should say, and frankly might want to explore having multiple hypotheses, even if the first thing you think of, oh, like that's it, that's the solution. I think it's worth taking time to explore all of the possibilities. It's making me think of, this is an improv exercise I think I did at some point with someone, but taking an object, so for example like a chapstick, and being like, it's a chapstick, yes, but like what else could it be? It could be a little action figure that someone plays with, or it could be my imagination's not very good right now. It could be I could take the chapstick out and make it into like a binocular thing, see through the tube. But all of these sorts of things. So getting creative, I guess, is all that's to say, of really brainstorming hypotheses for what could be going on here, because there might be overlap between some of them, or it might not be the first thing you think of. It could very well be, but I think by not exploring all the possibilities, then you're limiting yourself right out the gate and potentially preventing yourself from finding the real crux of the matter.
Exactly. And by not making that full list, I think all of us have had the experience of, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this and that's going to fix it. And then you do, whatever thing, and it doesn't fix it. And that can be crushing for a business owner when we think we did the thing that's going to fix it. But this process, if that thing doesn't work, okay, great. Go back to your list. With this process, and this helps take some of the emotion out of it as well. You're not hanging all of your hopes on doing this one thing. You're going to test that out. And if that works, great. Maybe it will make it just a little bit better. Maybe it will improve it. Maybe it isn't a complete fix though. And so then you go back to your list and say, okay, we've done that. Now let's add in this and see if that makes a difference. And let's add in this. And all right, let's try this instead. But having more than one option to hang your heart on allows you to experiment and helps you to stay objective. Because the thing about business is that it's never simple. It's never simple. It's never linear. It's never. I feel like I'm trying to talk someone out of going into business. It's still so much fun. It's never easy, but when we play it, when we think of it objectively, it can be kind of fun to solve our problems. And I know if you maybe just came off of a launch that tanked, you're thinking, oh yeah, sure, it can be really fun to solve my sales problems. I get you. I understand you are in that emotional place. However, when you're able to step back and go, okay, what are the possibilities that I could use to make changes to this situation? What can I test out first? What do I want to test out next? What do I think might work? It can take a lot of the emotion out of it, which thank goodness, because sometimes we need that emotion removed from it. And it can make it a little bit lighter. And maybe if you're not able to be open to the idea of it being fun, it can at least make it a little bit lighter, can make it a little bit more of an experiment, if not a game even. But it makes it so much less weighty.
Yeah, and I think it makes it more controlled too by not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, but then also not knowing what the thing was that helped you get out of this mess. And so not being able to say, okay, this was the thing that actually, or these couple of things were what got us out of this. And having that information is so much more helpful than guessing and then not knowing moving forward if something like it happens again, or it's A/B testing essentially with various things that aren't, it's like testing your sales page and saying, okay, I'm going to change the headline and this body copy and add this other section on my sales page. And you do that and yeah, it performs better than your control. But then which one of those elements made the difference? Was it the headline? Was it the section you added? Was it this new body copy? And you don't know. And so then moving forward, how do you further optimize that? Then you're just kind of, maybe it would have done even better if you had just changed the headline and nothing else and kept the other one the same. And so you can run all of these sorts of tests, and you should, and you can, it just takes a bit more of a concentrated effort to say, okay, I'm going to do this one first and this one second, have more of a process and order of operations and have it be, again, more controlled, more focused. And so testing is so super valuable. And it's one of the things you have to do, I feel like, to improve anything in your business and continue to grow and scale and whatnot. And this is, I feel like, one of the big reasons, and we won't go too far down this rabbit hole because we have an entire episode about it. So we'll link to that in the show notes. But this is one of the reasons why if you're live launching and you're doing it twice a year, once a quarter, it makes it much more difficult to get the information that you need to improve things in your business, whether it is, interpersonal relations or subject lines or sales pages and all of that sort of thing. When you're able to test on an ongoing basis, week to week, month to month, you get so much more information feedback faster that allows you to move a lot faster than if you're waiting an entire quarter to test out new messaging or new ads or new whatever. When you can do that, the week after something happens that kind of didn't go the way you wanted, then the week after that, you're already improving it and optimizing it further. And the week after that, you're doing another test and optimizing it further, versus just kind of having dead air, if you will, dead time between launches.
Yeah, exactly. What this whole process does is it gives you a system to follow when you have a challenge. Because I know that sometimes when things go wrong in our business or we don't get the results that we want, it can really shake us. And that's absolutely understandable. But when you have a system to follow, yes, like we said, step one, let yourself feel shaken. That's okay. It is okay. You are a human being and you do not need to suppress your emotions, and which is probably a very unhealthy thing to do anyway. But this gives you a framework to follow. I was listening to a podcast a couple of months ago, and I forget exactly who it was, but someone was interviewing some very successful business owners, owners of multi-billion-dollar companies, in front of a studio audience, and the studio audience was made of entrepreneurs. And one of the audience members got a chance to ask a question, and she said, "Do you still feel fear? Do you still feel nervous about things?" And the business owner that answered the question said, "No, I never feel fear." And I thought, oh no, this poor woman, somehow she got the one guy, the one business owner who is so successful. He is so far removed from what it actually is to be in his business that he can say, no, I don't feel nervous at all. Because it's not true. I mean, maybe for him it is. Nice life if it is. Awesome. But you ask people who are anything shy of that, like wildly successful, even people who are worth like $50 million, $100 million. That I was listening to one of the everybody knows the Hormozis, Layla and Alex Hormozi, and was listening to one of Layla Hormozi's podcasts, and she was talking about the fear. The thing is that the fear and the nerves and the anxiety are just, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because they grow us as people, are part of being in business. And it is okay. If you are feeling fear, if you are feeling a little knocked off your game, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling any of these things, it's okay. You're in really good company, because guess what? All of the rest of us feel that too. But if you want to stick with your business, and I hope that you do, but if you want to stick with your business and if you want to be successful at this, you have to find a way to get yourself out of the fear or get yourself past the fear and keep taking action anyway, and not in a like scattered, haphazard, I'm taking action in 1,000 different ways because I don't know what's going to work, which, we have all been guilty of at some point in our business owning careers. But if you want to keep your business going, if you want to be successful at this, if you do not want to be at the mercy, if you do not want yourself and your business, and if applicable, your employees, to be at the mercy of your emotions, you need to know that this stuff is going to come up, and you need to be able to use a system like this to move yourself past and take effective action and be ready for when the next challenge or the next win comes up. Okay, so hopefully we've given you a lot of stuff to think about here. If you were someone who experiences challenges, so everyone. I would actually really recommend going back. Maybe if you're like me, change it from double speed down to one speed, maybe half speed, and write out the list of the steps so that you have it to refer to. I have them printed out next to me on my desk, and whenever something comes up, I go through the list, and it has made my business and my life so much easier. So I strongly suggest that you do the same. And with that, we will catch you in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.